The porcupine gets pricklier. But where are new Harpoon anti-ship missiles best deployed? Can Evergrande ever pay? As another debt deadline looms, we ask, can Beijing contain the contagion? Vaccine error. A hospital in New Taipei apologizes for giving people undiluted COVID shots. Fumio Kishida wins Japan's ruling party leadership runoff and will become Prime Minister. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Taiwan has agreed to the purchase of Harpoon anti-ship missiles from the United States. Military experts have differing views on how the missiles could best be deployed to deter a Chinese invasion. William Yen has our first report.
Taiwan is set to buy 100 Harpoon coastal defense systems and 400 Harpoon Block II missiles from the US. The 100 wheeled launchers each carry 4 Harpoons. The units could be placed in Taiwan's mountainous terrain and direct overlapping fire at an invasion fleet. Some experts had called for the missiles to be deployed on outlying islands in the South China Sea, where China has set up fortified outposts.
假如东沙跟南沙的情势真正是如国安团队不断大力宣扬的那样危急的话，我们就应该将最精良的兵器送到最危险，配发给海巡的弟兄，增强东沙以及南沙太平岛的防御能力。
But with almost daily Chinese warplane incursions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone, another expert advises placing Harpoon missiles closer to Taiwan's main island.
放置在外岛那个可以延伸它的作战范围跟距离，的确是有这样子的效益。但是，就说考虑到它可能主要这个防范的是可能是对这个本岛的可能的入侵嘛。那如果是台湾周边的岛屿，像例如说澎湖、小琉球这些地方，也许它的效益会更大一些。
President Tsai Ing-wen has said she aims to turn Taiwan's military into a porcupine, difficult to attack. The acquisition of anti-ship missiles is a clear step in that direction. Klein Wang and William Yen for TaiwanPlus.
China's largest ever airshow has kicked off in the southern city of Zhuhai. The 6-day event showcases homegrown aerospace and military technologies. It was postponed from its original November 2020 date due to COVID-19. The event is being closely watched because of China's military buildup in the Taiwan Strait and South China Sea. Evergrande's woes are showing no signs of letting up. The beleaguered Chinese property developer has an interest payment worth over $45 million due today, but it's not yet clear whether it will meet the deadline. Peter Lewis is a Hong Kong-based financial analyst and the host of Money Talk on RTHK Radio 3. He explained the priorities for Evergrande right now as it desperately tries to keep its head above water.
Anything that Evergrande can sell to raise money is going to help. You have to bear in mind, of course, that there's $305 billion of liabilities, so they're not going to be able to raise that. But they do have subsidiaries. They have, for example, China Evergrande New Energy Vehicle, which is their electric vehicle subsidiary. It hasn't yet built a single car, but nevertheless, it's listed here in Hong Kong on the stock exchange. Its share price has plummeted. It's down about 85–90% since the beginning of the year. But nevertheless, they would like to sell that. They would like to sell their property services developer here in Hong Kong just to try and raise some money so that they can try and finish these apartments that they're building across China.
And so what is Beijing doing about all this?
Well, it's a dilemma for Beijing. It doesn't want to bail Evergrande out, clearly. It doesn't like having these types of sort of risks in the system where companies think and investors think they are too big to fail. And it wants to get rid of that notion that any company really, however big, is too big to fail. But the reality is, in some ways, certainly for the domestic market, Evergrande is too big to fail. It owes too much money to too many people. So Beijing's priority is going to be to try and get other developers to take over these unfinished projects and then go and finish them so that the people who have deposited the money can then go and move into these apartments. So their first priority is going to be protecting these home buyers who have given large amounts of money to Evergrande, so that they will actually eventually get their property.
Evergrande has been compared to the Lehman Brothers. Do you think this is a fair comparison?
I don't think it is. For it to be compared to Lehman Brothers, then really Evergrande needs to have a much larger importance than it has in the global financial system. It's important in the Chinese financial system, but it's nowhere near as important in the global financial system. And you have to remember what Lehman Brothers did, the bankruptcy of Lehman's. It caused the US credit markets to freeze up. Now, the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. So if US funding freezes and the US bond markets freeze, that causes a problem all around the world. Now, the Chinese yuan, while indeed its importance has been growing over recent years, it is nowhere near as important as the US dollar to the global financial system. So what will probably happen in financial terms is that this will be contained within China. It may well cause pain in China, and it will cause some pain for those offshore bondholders who won't get their money back, but it will be largely contained on the mainland.
Now, China's power woes continue. A shortage of coal combined with tough new emissions standards and strong domestic demand have triggered widespread blackouts. But how are people in China reacting to the power shortage? And is Beijing to blame? Our reporter Ken Ning has more.
Chinese factories and households are facing rolling power cuts as the country is gripped by an energy crisis. The northeastern city of Shenyang appeared unscathed on Tuesday evening. It was business as usual in key shopping districts.
我感觉好像是就是生活肯定是没问题，就是因为工业方面吧要停电。
前几天早上可能停了一次，但感觉没有对生活有什么影响。
Last week, a suburb of the city suffered unexpected blackouts that shut down traffic lights and jammed up the city roads. Officials have ordered factories to suspend production, and that's threatening to disrupt the global supply of smartphones and other goods made in China. Last year at the UN Climate Summit, Chinese President Xi Jinping announced that the country would cut its carbon dioxide emissions to 65% of 2005 levels by 2030. But China's total power generation through August was nearly 15% greater than in the same period in 2019. That's because the country was creating more power to meet surging industrial demand. One major near-term challenge for Beijing is its ongoing trade dispute with Australia, the world's second-largest coal exporter. The country has reduced coal shipments to China at the same time that Chinese authorities have slowed production at coal mines following a series of accidents. Chinese coal prices have surged to record highs, jumping 137% over the past year. Until China can solve its problem with power, the global supply chain is hanging in the balance. Damon Lin and Ken Ning for TaiwanPlus.
A hospital in New Taipei has apologized for giving undiluted Pfizer shots to 25 people by mistake. After realizing the error, Enzhugong Hospital contacted the recipients and admitted them for tests and observation. So far, none of the 25 has experienced an adverse reaction. The Pfizer vaccine is normally diluted with saline solution before it is administered. In this case, hospital staff wrongly believed workers on an earlier shift had diluted the vaccine. The hospital will suspend COVID vaccinations for a week to review its protocols. Taiwan is hoping its Medigen COVID-19 vaccine will gain international approval, with few countries currently recognizing the shot for travel. Last week, the US announced that only arrivals fully vaccinated with WHO-approved vaccines can enter the country. Meanwhile, Japan is easing quarantine from 14 days to 10 for travelers with 2 doses of the AstraZeneca or BioNTech vaccines. A vaccine passport issued in or recognized by Japan is required. Both countries exclude the locally produced Medigen. Taiwan's government says it is working with both nations to try to resolve any issues in order to gain recognition. Tourists from Taiwan can choose Moderna or Pfizer jabs when they visit Palau via the travel bubble. The country is offering a COVID vaccination service to visitors. Moderna vaccines are limited to 30 people per charter flight, but there is no limit on Pfizer jabs. The Taiwan-Palau travel bubble was launched in April but halted in mid-May after an outbreak of COVID cases in Taiwan. Mahjong clubs have been among the many public venues closed since Taiwan's COVID outbreak in May. Now they are getting ready to reopen on October 5th. Sandy Chi has more.
This Mahjong club is full of dust and cobwebs after being closed for 4 long months. It is finally ready to be back in business, and players are eager to return.
我们也有设置了隔板，交叉的，它是 X 型的，很碰啦、很湿、很糊啦，都没有问题。戴着手套好，触感比较好的，大家可以戴得比较久的，不要戴上去不到2分钟，然后就出手汗了，那大家就会偷偷的把它拿下。
Strict protocols and also innovative measures are in place to protect players against infection. The clubs have prepared partitions and gloves specially for the players. However, some complain it is not the same. Mahjong is a tactile game and experienced players can read a tile by touch. That's not as easy to do with fingers wrapped in plastic. Mahjong clubs are one type of entertainment venue set to reopen soon, while many are excited to go out and socialize again. At the same time, the possibility of another outbreak is also a worry. Asnaya Zhou and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
After the break, we take a closer look at one of Taiwan's signature ingredients, Beancurd skin, and how a family is carrying on the 100-year legacy. Stay with us.
Hello, Taiwan. I'm Dr. Jane Goodall. I'm so very happy to see Taiwan sharing its wonderful stories with the world. I've been fortunate enough to visit Taiwan on many occasions, and I've been to several different parts of the country. So I know firsthand something of the beauty of its wildlife and the marvelous people who are working to save these places. So good luck with this wonderful program.
And I want to know, what do you want to see more of on TaiwanPlus?
Hello, I'm Fabio Grandjean. Taiwan to the world. See you on TaiwanPlus.
Congratulations to TaiwanPlus.
Hello, Taiwan. I'm Mike Yamashita, National Geographic photographer. My stories have been as varied as the landscape itself, from Taiwan's top 10 tourist attractions to oolong tea, aquaculture, and the Taiwanese fishing industry, and most recently, the Daija Mazu pilgrimage. From TaiwanPlus, I would like to see stories on more of the same, about the varied cultural and historical aspects of the country.
Taiwan to the world. See you on TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan to the world. See you on TaiwanPlus.
Hello, Taiwan. I'm Baron Wanga, and greetings to you all from my humble homeland of Nauru. It's a worthwhile and appropriate platform whereby the unique perspectives of the people of Taiwan are portrayed and presented honestly. Taiwan to the world. See you on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back to TaiwanPlus News. A reminder of our top story. Taiwan has agreed to the purchase of Harpoon anti-ship missiles from the United States. Military experts are debating on how the missiles could best be deployed. Fumio Kishida looks set to become Japan's next prime minister. Results released in the last few hours show Kishida narrowly beating out rival Kono in a runoff for leadership of Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party. Kono was the early favourite, but encountered opposition from Conservative Party elders. The result comes ahead of a general election that must be held by the end of November. The UK and Japan have announced plans to deepen their military relationship. The proposed agreement will make it easier for the two nations to cooperate on military operations, including bilateral exercises. Japan is also seeking to complete a similar agreement with Australia. The first round of UK-Japan security talks is set to begin on October 7th. The Interior Ministry has doubled the length of time job seekers from Hong Kong and Macau can stay in the country. The move allows professionals in certain industries from Hong Kong and Macau to spend up to a year looking for work in Taiwan. They were previously limited to just 6 months. Increasing numbers of Hong Kongers have been seeking to come to Taiwan following the introduction of China's controversial national security law. For more on today's amendment, I spoke with TaiwanPlus reporter Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick. I started by asking him what is significant about the change.
Today's amendment allows some job seekers from Hong Kong and Macau to spend up to a year finding employment here. On top of the 6 months they already had, they can now apply for an additional 6 months on top of that. So it's not insignificant and will make a big difference to some people's lives.
In practice, this sounds great. Are there any critics of the plan?
The criticism I can see some people levying at this change is that it is targeted towards professionals in certain industries and graduates of Taiwanese master's and doctoral programs. Now, Taiwan can't really be blamed for trying to take in people with more qualifications and skills, but for, say, the average young Hong Konger who's afraid of facing jail time for participating in protests or opposition politics and has been waiting maybe even a couple of years to find safety in Taiwan, it's not going to make a world of difference to them.
And in general, why is the process for Hong Kongers trying to get into Taiwan so difficult?
In large part, it's a legacy of the Republic of China framework. Officially, Taipei still claims Hong Kong and Macau, and as such, regards them as neither foreigners nor Taiwanese. As technically Chinese citizens, Hong Kongers also face a lot more suspicion about infiltration than other foreigners would. In normal times, this bureaucratic eccentricity was not a huge deal. We could apply for entry permits online, and it was quite a simple process. But politics and the coronavirus have made this transit nearly impossible now. In order to get from Hong Kong to Taiwan, not even an hour's flight away, I personally had to fly halfway across the world to obtain a special entry permit from a third country. The whole process took about half a year, 6 weeks in quarantine, involved needlessly transiting through a COVID hotspot, and that's not to mention the cost. Now, the Tsai administration has faced criticism for vocally supporting Hong Kong protests, but keeping the door shut on Hong Kongers trying to get here. Moves like this do creak the door open a little bit. Ideally, they're becoming quicker and be more comprehensive, but this is nonetheless a very welcome step in the right direction.
While many across the world have become familiar with tofu in recent decades, few are aware of another related product, Beancurd skin. It's a staple of Taiwanese cuisine. We now get a cooking lesson from a pair of brothers who have modernized the production of this traditional delicacy.
做这豆腐吼，第一顶边吐火啦，这个边上要弄好。第二啦，火要一定控制好拄好，啊豆腐做起来才水。啊，阮像话手咧捞揽的树啊，都爱加揽，就是揽毛 Q 来，揽毛 Q 来啦，揽毛 Q 来咬起来豆腐就是水。
《
做豆腐吼，在我迄个还无出世，阮兜就做来了。70年前咯，我还无出世，因就做来了。无较早偌济人做的，迄阵迄生活就是爱安尼啊。哦，这较早就是农村的生活安尼啦。阮就是加减舀一寡豆皮，副业的。啊，迄阵生活大家食歹嘛，啊，你有法度通的时阵做这款豆腐，就感觉诚好啊。一般这个装的拢头拢家族的家己做，拢家己大细拢会做这安尼。迄阵规家拢嘛会做，拢嘛大细汉哦，老爸老母啦，兄弟姊妹拢较大拢会做。拢12点过就开始做，阮爸爸妈妈因迄阵迄时代嘛，伊迄阵的天气吼，较有迄个水汽地，豆皮较袂破，啊嘛较袂酥。迄阵拢兄土炭了，看家子安尼两种。啊，古早是用酒窝安尼磨，这样子磨起来的，迄阵是上艰苦的时阵。磨豆的时阵嘛真重要，啊无油。无油来的时阵，煮的时阵哦，伊这过滤的时阵哦，迄个营养，迄个豆浆较浓、较油的吼，较 Q 身，伊做起来较袂稀薄，较袂辣去安尼。干那磨豆浆安尼泡2点钟吼。啊，安尼徛捞啊，要10点钟，然后12点钟足哦。你煮的时阵哦，拢尽量煮较功夫些哦，安尼迄个卵磷脂较早会出来，迄养分营养些拢较有安尼哦。你若凊彩拿两个啊吼，迄豆奶就浓度较少，的时阵哦，你要做品质就较歹去啊，啊嘛较无香味、无味道啥哦，较无Q性。真紧啦，时间咧过真紧啦，一天吼，连咪天光，连咪暗，连咪黑，基本上大家这么浸落，啊，连咪透早伊就做，啊做到连咪下晡伊就好，伊较早起来嘛，伊拢做到下晡就好安尼。阮大兄就做遐久啦，阮老爸迄缘就做遐久啊，哦，几百年的老店咯你。阮老爸都高腔大汉啦，印象中哦，肝吼，规身躯拢全流肝呢吼，啊肝流啦，规身躯在流啊。但是伊自从带动这豆腐吼，互阮规家成长起来啦。所以阮这代嘛足坚强的叫豆腐。人都是爱有艰苦。有艰苦，迄个精神才有多。只有我们看到阮老爸老母因迄阵的艰苦，阮是看有到。我是想坚持而已啊啦，唔要安怎讲较迄落的。阮是没有跑啦，阮是坚持过做这款头路安尼，兄弟较艰苦者安尼。啊，都是爱珍惜讲咱迄种对艰苦，就是对摇豆腐起来。对摇豆腐拍起，啊，阮这阵兄弟姊妹嘛是安尼啊，同款，拢就是迄阵遮艰苦，啊，所以讲兄弟姊妹感情哦足好对对啊，而且团结心啊，佫在伫遮，都是大家都要团结啊，团结这两字都爱斗，两字上重要，你没有团结一定失败。
Taiwan's Labour Ministry plans to streamline procedures for migrant workers arriving in the country. The planned one-stop service includes briefing on labour laws and all documentation, including work permits, health insurance and residency cards. New arrivals will also get to understand their rights and where to go if they need help. Blah, blah, blah. That's what Greta Thunberg thinks of world leaders' promises to tackle climate change. Buzzwords like the green economy, net zero, and the G7's Build Back Better were all lambasted by the climate activist. The Swedish teenager made the comments at a youth climate conference in Italy yesterday. Her criticisms come ahead of next month's COP26 UN climate conference in Glasgow.
There is no planet B. There is no planet blah, 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 blah. This is not about some expensive, politically correct green act of bunny hugging or blah, blah, blah. Build back better, blah, blah, blah. Green economy, blah, blah, blah. Net zero by 2050, blah, blah, blah.
Thanks for watching Taiwan Plus. We'll leave you with some images of this enigmatic figure created by a Mexican artist in Spain. Stay safe and see you next time.